Hello there and welcome to episode 77 of Little Big Knits. My name is Selma and I'm coming to you from Ottawa, Canada, where I live with my family and our cat Yoda. And you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Selma Knits. So please come and find me and say hello. As I said, I'm coming to you from Ottawa, where we have the perpetual winter. It's only the beginning of March, so it's absolutely normal, but we are definitely breaking some records with regards to snowfall this year. It has been a very snowy, and I have to say, very beautiful winter. We've had some very cold days, but not many, and it's just been a winter wonderland. So you can expect more wintry footage at the end of the podcast. So yes, it's been quite beautiful here. And today I will be sharing a few different things. We're going to have a new make-along. We've also reached 20,000 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you so much for being there, and I will be announcing a giveaway a little bit later about that. That will include this beautiful basket over here. And of course, I'm going to tell you what I'm wearing, my FOs, my works in progress, and I'm going to share a little bit about some patterns that have come into my life. We've got a podcast corner, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about some things that have been bringing me joy over the last little while. I haven't shared that in a while. I realized my list was getting long, so I had to eliminate a few things. So that's what you've got for today. Now, before we go on to the substance, I just want to say one more thing about bots. I mentioned them last time, that we had them in our previous episode, that they were responding to people's comments on YouTube, pretending to be me. And that is happening to a lot of podcasters. You've probably heard podcasters address it. And I just wanted to say one last thing and repeat what others have said, which is that you will never just hear from me out of the blue asking you to give me information so I can send you something. If you haven't heard about a prize coming from me from the episode, from Ravelry, from Instagram, it is definitely not me. And always feel free, if you are at all suspicious, to get in touch with me and ask me directly. And you can find me, as I said, as Selma Knits on Instagram, on Ravelry, easy places to find me. And if you do see any bots, below in your comment, you get a response and it's from a bot, it's from somebody pretending to be me, then please feel free to report them. If you click on the three little dots, I believe there's a report button, or feel free to alert me and then I will start scanning. I scanned this last time and it seemed like there were no weird comments, I believe. So we should be okay at this point. I reported them all the time before that, so hopefully that was enough. So enough about bots. Let's move on to the knitting. So what am I wearing today? I think this is definitely one of the makes that has received the most compliments, the most likes on Ravelry, the most likes on Instagram as well. This is the Stripes sweater by Andrea Mowry. And I made it, when did I make this? Last year? The year before? Something like that. My husband is finishing his bowl of porridge, I believe, upstairs. And I don't know if you can hear the bowl, but anyway. So yeah, I finished this, was it last year or the year before? Anyway, I made it using yarns from my stash. Yarns that I had. There's been a little bit of pilling happening down here, I find, but they're all different yarns. There's some Julie Asselin, some Madeline Tosh, I believe that was the Wool Barn, some Malabrigo, Fleece Artist, Urso yarns. Like there's a combination of yarns here. It took me a long time to choose the combination, and then when I finally settled on it, I made the sweater, and I was very, very happy with this. And it's a nice light sweater. It's all superwash yarn. And so while it is warm, it's not as warm as a non-superwash yarn. So it's a lovely kind of sweatshirt-like sweater. I seem to be losing hair. Anyway, the one thing I can tell you about this was that I accidentally made a size smaller than I should have. I marked the pattern, and I somehow still cast on the size smaller and did the increases, and only realized it when I finished the increases and I counted my stitches and they were off. I was like, what have I done here? So I decided to do an extra set of increases, and it actually turned out really, really well. And this is a sweater that if you've been on Ravelry, you may have noticed there are a lot of versions where there's a lot of puckering. And I was nervous about that going into this project. And then I had a fortuitous mistake. I made a fortuitous mistake and ended up certainly mitigating any potential puckering with my mistake by making a size smaller. And it made me think a little bit, you know, that maybe sometimes we can modify a sweater. If we get to this point and we realize that we don't have enough stitches, do an extra repeat, especially if it's a simple sweater. I mean, if it's something that's got all over color work, then there's a lot more involved in calculating and figuring it out. But it worked out really well. I have certainly been thinking about a second version of this sweater. I really have. I've been thinking about, in this case, I think I had 8 colors, and I've been thinking about just using up colors that I have. So there could be 15, but I haven't quite gotten there. I've got so many things on my mind, but that would be a really nice scrappy project for sure. So that is what I'm wearing today. All right, let's talk about finished objects. The first one is the iris hat. I am so smitten with this hat. It's so fun. So fun. So you will recall, oh, I was going to bring it over. Just a moment. So you will recall that I made the pink vest, a hot pink vest, the Stockholm slipover, a couple of episodes ago. When was that? Yeah, a couple of episodes ago, I believe. And I made it using Sonder yarns in their Sunday Morning 4-ply in Rise and Shine, this fabulous pink. And the vest literally took about 1.2 skeins. And I thought, what am I going to do with the rest of this yarn? First of all, I couldn't believe how little yarn it took. I had stranded it with some Surrey alpaca. I didn't have enough of the Surrey alpaca to make anything with. I mean, I have a little ball, but it wouldn't have been enough for a hat. But then I ended up finding some Katia silk mohair in a perfect pink. It was almost a perfect match for this. And so I made this hat. And this is the iris hat. The pattern was gifted to me by my friend Leah. And I double-stranded the Sonder yarns with the Katia pink mohair, which is upstairs, and I won't show it to you, but I think it was color 210. I think I put that in the last episode. And I still have some Sonder yarn. So this is yarn that just keeps on giving. And I'm thinking that this could be beautiful in a sweater. It would be really nice to be able to get 50-gram skeins of this. But yeah, it would be really nice in a sweater with some other fun colors. But I have to figure out what to do with this. It'll eventually go into something. But yeah, I double-stranded this hat with the 2, and this is just a really lovely, lovely pattern. It's actually a top-down pattern. So you start at the crown of the head. And you literally just go down, and you go down, and you go down, and you go down, and you go down, until you go down. Until you've reached a certain amount of inches. I actually went 1 inch beyond, and then you fold it over twice, and there's your hat. So it's a really simple project. It's really fun, and it's light but warm, especially with the, you know, basically the 3 layers of knitting right here. So it's going to be a really good cold weather hat for me. And yeah, just such a really fun color. So that was my finished object number 1. And gosh, I thought it would take the entire skein, and it did not. The next finished object that I have, I will put it on for you, is my Dickie. Now, I know that this is a word that is more of a North American word. Some places they call it a polo neck. Some place they might call it a, I don't know what else you would call it. Would it be a cowl neck? It's not really a cowl neck, but in North America, it's known as a dickie. And somebody sent me the information. It's sort of based on these sort of shirt pieces that a man, and at times a woman, and at times certain times in fashion, women as well, would wear, that was like a piece that looked like a shirt under a jacket or under a vest. So I think it's named after that, but it's just a great piece to put under a coat, and it turned out just beautifully, actually. This is a drops pattern. I cannot remember the number, so I'll put it down here. But as I told you last episode, the pattern is not well written, and I was confused at row number 1. But luckily, Leanne of the Knitty Stew had done some work and had put notes in her version of this dickie, and I basically followed what she did and went along. Now, I did some modifications. I made the neck longer because I wanted something that I could wear like this, but I can also fold it down and just make it look like a turtleneck underneath. Oh, it's such a beautiful color. And I did not make the front panel as long. I had thought about using the little nugget that I might have left over and make this longer, but I got lazy, honestly, and I've just kept the nugget, and we'll see what ends up happening with it. So it's almost the same length in both front and back, but it looks shorter because of the way it's only about this much shorter, but it looks a little bit shorter than that because of the way it sits. But it just sits really, really nicely. And I really love it. And this was beautiful yarn, one skein that my friend Holly had given me from the Isle of Skye, Cheviots, and Border Collies. And it's just a beautiful yarn. My goodness, I think I would like an entire sweater in this gray. It's so beautiful. So yeah, it's a little bit rustic, but it doesn't bother me much. And I think that this will just be really nice under my coat on a good cold day. And maybe I'll be wearing my hat and the dickie and be nice and toasty warm. So there you go. Really, really lovely project, and a great way to use a skein of yarn. And I think next time I would start with the back and finish with the front, and that way I would just use up the yarn. I didn't really need it to go a lot further down. I really needed it more for the neck than anything. I'm not a huge fan of cowls because cowls are often loose, and if I'm gonna have that much fabric under there, I need it to be something that keeps me really warm. So I haven't found a way to use cowls. I've made some, but I haven't found a way to use cowls that really work for me. They're better when I don't need a lot of warmth, but if I need a lot of warmth, I need something here. So this will be great, or else I take a scarf and really wrap it up. So that was make number 2. I've actually got 2 more finished objects. The first one is the Kallara. You will recall last time that I had made a big boo-boo, and I had a weird Wonder Woman kind of W shape at the bottom of the shawl, and I decided to rip it back. In fact, I think after podcasting, I just sat down and ripped it back and got back on my way. And I was able to use up the entire skein of this speckled, and when it ran out, I got into this orange and striped it with the teal and finished it. And it's a great pattern. This is one of mine. I have a gray one that I wear all the time, and I really love wearing it, under a coat. And I find that it provides a lot of warmth, and it's not too bulky to be under a coat. So this one I made for my sister-in-law, and if you'll recall, it was supposed to be on its way to Uruguay with my husband. I finished it in time. Unfortunately, my husband has had to postpone his trip. I won't go into the details of that, but he'll be going in November instead, which is too bad because it's going to miss a winter of work. It's going to miss fulfilling its purpose for one winter. but she'll get it in November when it's their spring. And yeah, so it's going to be sitting around waiting to go. I'm going to pack it up nicely and make sure that it's good and safe and in good shape, and it'll go down. So these were yarns from Malabrigo that I got at the Malabrigo center they had in Montevideo. They've apparently moved and are no longer there and are now in Peru, I believe. So I don't think I'll be able to go there and get yarns from their discount bins, but that was great while it lasted. And this was the speckled one was a single ply experiment that they gifted to me when I was there. And the other two were yarns that I got from their bin. So really, really happy to have used up these yarns. And I actually was thinking about my sister-in-law when I got them. I thought they were lovely and bright. So that's the Kallara, patterned by Amba O'Brien, my second version. And I honestly could see myself making a third. It's a very potato chippy pattern overall. The decreases, you have to pay a little bit of attention. There are two sections of increases and 2 sections of decreases, and the decrease rates and increase rates change, so you have to be on top of that. But when you're within those sections, you just keep on doing what you're doing. And it's a really lovely, lovely pattern. Amba came out with something recently that is, I think, inspired by this, with a center portion, a center double decrease like this, but that's equal on both sides. It's really beautiful. She just came out with it, and I've been looking at that and wondering if I should venture into that one. So that is the Kallara, and glad to have that off the needles. Now my last one is my Dust of Snow. My goodness, what a labor of love this was. I enjoyed every single stitch of this piece. I loved this project so much. It is so beautiful. I was trying to take pictures of it and thinking I'm never going to be able to do it justice, I don't think. It's just so beautiful. And so I'm going to show it to you from one end to the next. So you can see a little bit about the color changes, and it is just so, I just love looking at it. Like, I would almost just put this up on the wall just to look at the color changes. When I wet it to block it, we have a line downstairs where we tend to hang some things to dry here and there. And I actually put it on that line, and the line was almost long enough, but I ended up having to leave this bit to droop a bit. So you've got a little bit of a weird little thing happening here, but otherwise I just used those clips that sewers use and attached it onto that line, and it worked perfectly. So this is the Dust of Snow by Helen Stewart, and it came out as an Advent knit a couple of years ago. So it's supposed to have 24 stripes. I only made 22, and honestly, I think I could have made 20 and it would have been long enough. This would be insanely long. It's insanely long. It's already long. To wear it, I think I would need to, and this will be just a beautiful, beautiful thing to wear, but I can easily double wrap it and still tie it and be, really, really bundled up. And it's just so pretty. How does it look with this one? There's a lot of color happening here today, but yeah, I just absolutely love it. As I said before, I made it a little bit narrower as per the pattern. She gives you options for making it narrower because I wanted it to be more of a scarf than a shawl. And I used all yarns that I had in my stash. And I think it will be a little bit too much to go through every single one. This is the orange from the Kallara shawl. And I have put the list on my Ravelry page, so if you want to see what I used, you can go ahead. But the basic principle was to use yarns that I had, so minis that I had or leftovers. Some of these are minis, some of them are leftovers. Like this is a beautiful mini from Bijou Basin that no longer dyes yarn, or they no longer make yarn. but they're all minis or leftovers that I had in my stash, and I was so happy to use them. It didn't use them all up. There's still ones that were minis that were 20-gram minis. There's still a nice nugget left, so they'll be going into some other project this year, because I have decided that this year is a scrappy year, scrappy stashy, and I'll be talking about that soon. So my main principle really was to just try and have colors that coordinated nicely and have some lights every second color or so, so that it sort of created these waves of color. So that was the main principle I used for putting this together, and it worked out well. I double-stranded the fingering weights with Knitting for Olive silk mohair in the cream colorway, and it just worked out so beautifully. I could see myself making another one of these that I would be happy to give away. In fact, a friend was over yesterday and she was like, that is really beautiful. And I thought, maybe I should make one for her. So we'll see, but it's a great way to put beautiful colors together, to, you know, really, I just feel it's so, there was so much harmony in making this. It was such a joy that I absolutely love it and would love to make it again. And as I said, I would think I would make it a little bit shorter next time, to have it a little bit less intense as a scarf. But yeah, really, really beautiful. So those are all my finished objects for today. Quite a handful. On to works in progress. So where do I begin? Where do I begin? I will begin here. In this bag is my crochet blanket. You may recall that I had hoped to bring this out at the beginning of February, but I really wanted to finish the Kallara and the Dust of Snow, and I knew that if I brought this out, it was going to compete. So I decided to wait, and I brought it out on March 1st and started putting squares on, and then ran into a snag. And then yesterday, which was the 4th, I decided to just take a little break because I needed to regroup and figure out what I was going to do. So the cream color is Sadness Garn Sisu, and I had made a previous blanket like this using the Sadness Garn Sisu. And I ended up having to buy a whole bunch more in a different lot because I started working with the previous lot and got some new lot, and they're clearly, despite being sort of a neutral cream, there was a big difference. And I accidentally picked up that other lot to do the last row on this blanket. I'm going to show you. I don't know if you can see it on camera. I think you can. This is a bit more yellowy and this is a little bit more white. So this was what I used on my previous blanket. And I only noticed when I was on square 4. And I was like, oh no, I can't believe that. So I took a little break from it yesterday, but I have resolved, because I also realized that I was kind of going backwards on the row and it was making it a little awkward to put the squares on. So I have resolved that today what I'm going to do is start at the other end, which will make more sense going in that direction with the right dye lot, the right cream, and I'll finish it that way. And then when I get to the end, I'll rip those out and redo them. And that way I don't have to deal with that mess for a while, and it doesn't completely kill my blanket mojo, because my goal is to finish this in the next month or so. I want to put on this last row to make the blanket wider, because this is actually the length of it. I want to make it a bit wider, and then I have to knit the border on it, or crochet the border on it. And then I have all the ends to sew in. I know a lot of people tend to sew them in as they go, but I don't know, I just don't do that. I just want to keep on going. So like my other blanket, at the end, I literally, for about 15 or 20 minutes a day until I finished, I just would sit there sewing ends for about 15, 20 minutes. I'd have a little pile of threads, and that would be it for that day. And it took maybe a week to do it. Then it just became a very meditative exercise. So yeah, so that is the blanket. And I'll be very happy when that is finished. And that is a great stash busting kind of project to do as well. You'll recall that I made the cat mat for Yoda, and I made a mug rug. And I just really love this idea. And somebody suggested, I think it was on Instagram, somebody suggested a pillow could be neat. And I was like, oh, what a great idea. And calculating how much yarn I used for the cat mat and that the pillow would need to be probably about double the width, I thought it should be, I should have enough yarn if I used entire skeins. I think my calculations may be off, and I think I may be running into a problem, but I have started a pillow. And I decided to use, I had different color combinations and I had more yarn, but these yarns are a little heavier. So rather than 5 strands, I've only got 3 strands. But I wanted to use up yarns in my stash. However, I also wanted black in it. This is going to go into our sort of TV room downstairs. We have a small area where we sit and watch TV. The sofa is gray. The pillows are all kind of a burnt orange. And there's a wall hanging on the back that is black and sort of a burnt orange as well. So I thought I wanted colors that went with that. And I had a lot of this Patons Kroy in my stash. That is color, I'm not sure what the color is, 202102 or 5750, 57510. Copper color. I have a whole bunch of this. I had gotten a big bag and out of a discount bin, and I really like it, but I have a lot of it. So I thought I wanted to use some of that, which would be good downstairs. And then I have 2 skeins of this, which is from the Belfast Mini Mills, I believe, in Prince Edward Island. And so this I got from there when we went to Prince Edward Island, gosh, 9 years ago? Like, it's been in my stash for a long time. And it's meant to be a sock yarn, but it just hasn't become socks. I find it's very loosely plied, it's very soft, and I think I was always a little nervous about how it would work out for socks. I thought about putting some cream in that I had, but when I swatched, I decided against the cream, and I really wanted black, and I didn't have black. I think I have a partial skein somewhere, but I couldn't find it, and it wouldn't have been enough. So I ended up going to Wabi Sabi and bought some of this charcoal. It's got a nice heathered look about it. And I have put these 3 colors together. I have a feeling that I'm going to need more than 100 grams, which is fine in the case of these 2, but not fine in the case of this because I only have 100 grams. I have a feeling that I'm actually going to need about 110 or 120 grams. So I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do. I think what I'm going to do is finish this first 50 gram skein, and I'll see where I am at, and I'll have to figure out something and maybe do a panel of something else and then go back. When I swatched with the cream, here's the cream and here's the dark. What I might do is just go back and use cream, black, and orange for a strand, for a batch. Haven't quite decided yet. I'll deal with that when I get there. I could also just do a solid color, which might be nice. So I have to figure it out. But I was inspired by the comment, but also by Yana of the Finished Knitting Stories, who was the original inspiration for the mug rug and the cat mat. Yana also did a laptop cover using the scraps and doing she knit it all in one piece, and she started with like a sock style magic cast on, or Turkish magic, Judy's magic cast on, or whatever it would be called, and did it all in one. I decided not to do that. I'll just sew it at the end. But she did garter stitch, but obviously because it's in the round, you're knitting one row and purling one row, and then she did a 3-stitch edging here, which kind of naturally helps it to fold. So I have cast this on, and I've knit that much so far. So I think this will be just a really great pillow in the basement, and I'm actually really excited about this and have ideas for other pillows. Although my idea might get a little bit quashed if it turns out that I need 120 grams, but we'll see. We'll see. That is another work in progress and held in this bag that I made a while ago. So that actually brings me to the make along, because I am really inspired by using bits and bobs. The dust of snow was so much fun. The blanket is so much fun. These scrappy projects like the mug rug and so forth. I've just been really having fun with that, and they're really inspiring me. And so I've decided that I think the cal that I'd like to start at this point is a sort of a scrappy, stashy make along. So the idea of this is really to use up bits and bobs that you have. And I'm going to call it a make along because it could be crochet, it could be weaving, it could be knitting, but also it could be sewing. If you are making something using scraps of fabric, that would count as well. The idea is to use scraps or to use stash that has been in your, wherever you stash your stuff, for a long time. So a long time, let's define long time. I'm going to say more than 3 years. So we're in 2023. So it would need to be prior to 2020. So if you have things that you've had in your stash for a good 3 years or more, then that would comprise stashy. And then scrappy would be using, you know, partial skeins, little minis, things that have been around that also need to get used up, leftovers from projects and so forth. I just have felt so inspired by this, and it just seems like, you know, you can get so much out of one skein of yarn. I'm kind of blown away that I was able to make a garment and a hat, and a hat that was, you know, had a lot of fabric to it, out of less than 2 skeins of this yarn. I've even second guessed myself. Did I actually only buy 2 skeins? Did I buy 3 skeins? Am I like, you know, but no, I bought 2 skeins. So if you want to join in, please feel free. I will start a thread on in Ravelry, in the Ravelry group for Little Big Knits. So if you go onto Ravelry, and there'll be a link below in the show notes where I put everything, everything I can remember that I've jotted down, including the music. I put it down below. And the link to the Ravelry group is there as well. But we'll also use the hashtag Scrappy Stashy Mal on Instagram, so we can do it there as well. And I'll have prizes at the end. And how long will this go? Let's do it until the end of the year, because I foresee my year being a lot about using up bits and bobs and yarns that have been sitting around for a long time. In fact, my next project is one that has been sitting around for a long time. So this will be actually a stashy project as well. But I've been thinking about socks. I've been thinking about another blanket. I've been thinking about making more than one pillow. I've just been thinking a lot about using up yarns that I have, especially minis and nuggets that are left over. So yeah, there's some, I think it's the sea glass sweater, I can't remember the designer's name, that came out recently that is also meant to just use little bits. There are so many fabulous ways of using little bits, and I'll talk a little bit about that. I think I'm going to look into it and talk about that a little bit next episode. But if you're inspired to use up bits and bobs and your stash that's been sitting around for a long time, I hope you'll join me. So in that spirit, actually, in this great bag by Bags by Awesome Granny, Darlene makes these fabulous, huge bags. I have a project with yarn that's been sitting in my stash for at least 6 years. I'd have to check on Ravelry. It is a yarn that I got in the discount bin at Romney in Toronto, Romney Wool, which is on Queen Street West in Toronto. And they have this crazy basement discount place. I've bought quite a few yarns there. And I got this, which is a 65% wool and 35% nettle yarn. It is the Classic Elite yarns in their Woodland. And it was $6 a skein when I got it. And I had planned to make a particular cardigan and it just never happened. It's this really fabulous color. And Rebecca Clow of the Crea Bea podcast and also the designer of some fabulous sweaters this year, she has a new pattern that is coming out. As she's talked about it on her podcast, she showed it, and she's had a tester call, and I am actually one of the testers for the cardigan. It's called the Corran Cardigan. It's absolutely lovely. If you want to see it in its entirety, you'd have to watch her podcast or look at her feed, the Crea Bea, on Instagram. But I am actually just starting the back. It's meant to be a sort of cropped cardigan, and it's just got this beautiful, beautiful lace pattern on it. It's really, really lovely. I've truly enjoyed knitting this up. It's got a fabulous lace pattern. Rebecca has designed it to be a round neck or a V-neck and a long sleeve or a short sleeve cardigan. So it's really going to be, I think, a fabulous pattern for, well, climates where you don't get really cold weather, knit in lighter, more summer yarns or plant-based yarns like cotton and linen. This one obviously is a wool nettle blend, but I could foresee myself making one for the summer, you know, in white, for example, or a nice bright color for the summer too. So I am really enjoying making this. The lace pattern is lovely, and we're having a good time testing it. And I'm kind of partway up the back. Hopefully tonight I'll finish the back. I know that I think I'm making the same size that Rebecca had made, and Rebecca had used, I think she said about 750 yards of yarn, maybe 800. So because of the open lace, it's also not a cardigan that takes up a huge amount of yarn. And I think it's just going to be a lovely light cardigan. I'm really enjoying it, and I love, love the lace pattern on it. Totally up my alley. Simple, clean looking, and like just easily memorized. And that is my favorite kind of lace. I just love easy lace. Really, really fun. So I'm hoping to have this finished in the next couple of weeks at the most. Our deadline is April, so I think that the pattern will be coming out sometime in April. But that'll definitely be finished by then. And it's knit on fairly large needles as well, I think 5mm. So it's really a lovely fast knit. And I'm so happy to be using this yarn that has been sitting in my stash for a very long time, wanting to become a cardigan. Not this cardigan, but this is the cardigan that won out. So there we go. Let me just have a sip of my tea. I am drinking my tea today out of this beautiful mug by, I think it's Creations with Clay. His name is Charan Sachar, I believe. And he just makes the most beautiful, beautiful knitting related mugs. He's also a maker of yarny types, as well as obviously working with clay. And I love this mug. His work is beautiful. And I have my black cardamom tea in here. I actually turned it into a little bit of a latte with some almond milk. So, all right, last two little sock projects. I don't have a lot to tell you. This one in this lovely bag is the Auni Socks by Maria Costamavara. I have really just gotten to, I've just finished the heel and I'm just starting the gusset. I haven't gotten very far in this gorgeous olive color. My goodness, I love this color. And yeah, I tend to knit socks when I visit my mum. So most of this has happened when I've been visiting my mum and we watch TV together or something if we're not going out, if I'm not taking her out. So that is one pair, and that's being knit out of Les Arts Textiles du Témiscouata in this gorgeous color. She's no longer dying, so you can't buy this yarn anymore, but it is really beautiful. It's unfortunate that she decided that that part of her life was over for now. And then the next bag, this was made by my friend Mel, and Mel does not have a shop. She's been contacted by people asking where they can get the bag. She doesn't sell these bags. She simply made them for me and for Mega when we met up in Vermont. There is a pattern for it, and maybe what I'll do is link the pattern. It's quite neat because obviously there's a bit of patchwork, but it opens up on the side here. And in here I have also another sock that hasn't gotten very far, but it's every time I knit this, I love looking at the yarn coming out. Beautiful, beautiful speckled yarn by Cami Jo Yarns. This is her One Night in Bangkok colorway. And I just love it. And I'm just using, this was some West Yorkshire Spinners yarn. And this is a hedgerow mini that I had. And then I'm going to use another yarn that just keeps on giving. And I have a little nugget left and it's going to go into the toes. So yeah, not very far on that either, but really enjoying that. Also sort of going back and forth between the Auni and this one when I have a moment to knit on socks, because obviously I was really focusing on getting those other knits finished. And yeah, so those are all my works in progress. I also told you that I was taking a sewing class. So I did. I took a sewing class to make the Billie dress or sweatshirt from Tillie and the Buttons. So here is the booklet. That is what it looks like. I was hoping to make this. Now, in the course, we didn't actually end up having enough time to finish. There were 3 participants, and I don't think any of us was able to finish the dress or the sweatshirt during, I think we're all, no, one of them was making a sweatshirt and then 2 of us were making the dress. None of us was able to finish, which was a little disappointing, but it was still interesting. And in a way it turned out, because when I tried this on when I came home, I was a little bit disappointed with it. And a friend was over and she said, you know, and I scrunched it up because it also could be a sweatshirt. And we both agreed that as a sweatshirt, it was going to be more attractive. So I had chosen just this plain green fabric. As you can see, there's a problem right there, that there's a lot of gathering here. And I don't think I'm not quite sure how to fix that. I know that there would be many among you who would know how to fix that. I don't really know. And the shoulder doesn't fit beautifully either. So it's been a little bit of a disappointing make in a way. I used lighter fabric than was called for in the pattern. They called for sort of like a thick sweatshirt material, but I knew that I wouldn't wear it. It would be probably too warm for me, to be honest, and a bit of a suffocating feeling. So I opted for a lighter jersey, and I've only got it pinned on, but I'm going to I hope to do it yesterday, but I only got as far as the pinning yesterday. I'm hoping to do the edge on it, and I'll show it to you when it's finished. And but I think it's going to end up being kind of a sweatshirt that I wear around the house, or maybe under a jacket, but it just doesn't have a good enough fit. And although I know really well how to modify a sweater and what's going on with the sweater, when it comes to sewing, I'm very much a newbie. And so when I tried this on, I'm like, I have no idea how to fix this. Like, I just don't have a clue. So I think I'll probably go back to the store or try and find somebody who's a really experienced sewer and ask them what I could is there anything I could do to fix this, or what would a person do to fix this? So I'm very curious, but it was really nice to get back into sewing. It's got the sweatshirt kind of cuffs here, and just experience sewing again. And I've got a lot of ideas there, and I think I'm committed to trying to do a little bit of sewing every week. I really don't think I would spend a lot of time. I do not enjoy sewing as much as I enjoy knitting. It's a completely different kind of experience. Knitting is something that is, you know, relaxing and meditative for the most part. Sewing is not that for me. Certainly not, you know, putting something like that together. I suspect that hand stitching is very much like that. But I have a project here that I kind of started a long time ago and I hadn't finished. I had a sweater that I wasn't wearing anymore, and I decided to felt it. And I did. This was the bottom ribbing of the sweater, and I ended up making 2 pieces. I've cut out 2 pieces, and I want to make a tea cozy for our teapot. So I cut this out like probably a year ago and nothing has happened. But I think that once I put on the bottom part of that and I finish that, this is going to be next. I'm going to do, I've got some lovely fabric to make a lining for it. I may do a little bit of stitching on it. And then I'll have a teapot cozy. And I really need one for our teapot because we drink tea every evening and it always cools down by the time I've gotten to my second cup. And this will be a really great thing to have. We just don't have one. So once I finish the sweatshirt, I really want to move on to this, which is in this lovely little linen bag at this point that Kate, my friend Kate, had given to me. And so it's just waiting to happen next. And I'm actually really excited about this. I think this is going to be fun to make. And I'm thinking about putting the 2 pieces together with some, is it blanket stitch? And having the lining come out from underneath, and I'll hand stitch that. And I think I might do a little bit of stitching on it. Not 100% sure, but we'll see. But I'm looking forward to that. I think that'll be a really fun, creative project as well. So those are all the works in progress. That was enough. All right, just wanted to mention a couple of patterns that have, well, actually 4 patterns that have come into my life recently. That have all been gifted to me, 2 by viewers and 2 by the designers. So the first pattern was the Perek vest, or Perek, I'm not quite sure how it's said, the Perek vest by Corran Cardigan. That's actually a pattern that was in my favorites that I've been looking at. It's a lovely vest, sort of relaxed vest pattern. So thank you very much for that, Terry. And then Virginia Sattler-Reimer, who designed the leg warmers that I made a while back. She designed some new leg warmers called the Volcans, and she gifted me the pattern. They're really beautiful. And so I'm kind of thinking that perhaps next winter I'll need another pair of leg warmers. I don't know. I've worn my leg warmers quite a few times actually, when we've had cold weather, commuting to work with a skirt on. I had my leg warmers on. So, and then there was also this really fun hat called the Desert Dancer hat. And this is by Dagmar Bainen's Bird. And it's a really, really fun pattern, DK weight, that uses 2 colors and would be a great way of using up some leftover DK. So that could be a hat that comes along into my life soon, or perhaps next winter, we'll see. But it's a lovely, lovely hat as well. So check it out. Thank you for those, both to you, Virginia and Dagmar. And then another viewer also gifted me the Vaga pattern by Anna Johanna. Thank you for that, Ilona. It's really, really pretty. It's a sweater where you are, or a cardigan where you are striping a fingering weight with a mohair. So like the Elton, except in a yoke fashion. And I have been thinking about all these projects as well as 3,000 other things. So we'll see where we go, but those are 4 beautiful patterns that have come into my life. All right, I wanted to announce a giveaway for the 20,000 subscribers. Thank you for subscribing. If you come here and watch occasionally, or if you're here every single time, thank you so much for being here, for subscribing. And I thought 2,000 would be great, and eventually, after a while, here we are at 20,000. I started the podcast 5.5 years ago. I think it'll be 6 years in June, so even more than 5.5 years ago. And it's just been such a joy to come in and talk about my knitting and meet so many people and receive so many wonderful comments. The comments, I have to tell you, always blow me away. Like, I just can't believe the kindness that is out there and the generosity. And so I always really, really appreciate how people just come in and say wonderful things that you just don't expect. And I really, really appreciate it, and sharing things with me of like ideas or, you know, your perceptions on something. So I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate you subscribing and liking the podcast every time. And it's been just an absolute joy. So I wanted to announce some prizes. We've got 2 sponsors for prizes today. We've got, first of all, this fabulous basket. I showed it to you when Patricia gave it to me. This is a basket made by Patricia of Paradise Island. And I wanted to save this basket for a special prize. And I would say that this is a special prize. So this is one of the prizes that is up for the giveaway. And then Wabi Sabi, which is my local yarn store, has offered up 3 different prizes. So the first one is this beautiful skein by Essence of Autumn, whose, I believe her name is Shelley Cox. She is here in Ontario and is a beautiful, beautiful dyer, makes really gorgeous speckled yarns. This is her Prairie Sock, which is an 80% merino, 20% nylon. And the colorway is called Koi Pond. It's really beautiful. So this is a second prize as a giveaway, or a giveaway prize. And then Wabi Sabi also offered up 2 $50 gift certificates as a prize. Very generous. Thank you so much, Wabi Sabi. And also Patricia for this beautiful, beautiful basket for sponsoring these prizes. So we've got 4 prizes. And in order to enter the giveaway as an entry, I would like you to leave a comment down below in YouTube. Any comment will do, but I will give you a prompt. And if you leave a comment and you don't want to be part of the prize, you just want to leave a comment, you can just tell me not to enter you as a potential. That's fine. But if you're interested in winning one of the prizes, please make sure to comment below. And I'm going to give you a prompt. However, you don't have to follow the prompt. The prompt is really to tell me about a maker, whether it be a designer or a yarn dyer, but it could also be a famous artist or crafter or other kind of maker that where you live is famous for. So if you have, whether it be in your town or in your state or province, or in your, if you're in your country, but it would be nice to know, learn about makers, designers of different types from where you live. So that would be really, really a fun entry to read through. So that is the prompt for the giveaway. And then next episode, I will announce the winners for those, and then I'll ask you to be in touch with me so that I can make those prizes come your way. So yeah, so that is the giveaway for this time. And again, thank you for being here and listening to me prattle on about knitting. All right, a little podcast corner. I wanted to mention 3 podcasts, a couple that are new to me and one that is not, but I wanted to give her a special mention. So the first one is Sarah of Fiber Trek. Sarah's been podcasting for a long time. I met Sarah at Rhinebeck one time, and she's just a lovely person. And I wanted to mention her podcast because it's a lovely, quiet and soulful podcast. And Sarah she lives in the country, and so there's a really lovely country vibe to it. And she's involved in a lot of different types of crafts, obviously knitting. She's also spinning, she's quilting, and it's just really fun to listen to her podcasts, and it's just a lovely way to spend a quiet evening. So I wanted to mention Sarah Fibertrek. I also wanted to mention an Italian knitter with Francesca. And again, all of their links will be down below so that you can click and find them if you like. Francesca is in Italy. I believe she lived abroad, but she's back living in Italy. I'm not 100% sure where. And Francesca's just a really easy person to listen to, down to earth. She really enjoys making simple makes, lovely simple sweaters. She's also part of the Corran test knit right now, so I've gotten to know her a little bit through that. But her podcast is new to me, and I've really enjoyed it. And then the last one, which I recently discovered, I've heard people mention it, but somehow I'd never actually gone to check it out, was The Republic of Me. And Irina is, I'm not actually sure where she's based. She may be she's in an island. Is she in Crete? And she has a beautiful aesthetic, beautiful music, and just a beautiful aesthetic to her podcast. And lovely knitting, often with hand spun. Also just really enjoyable to listen to. So I wanted to mention those 3 podcasts today. And then lastly, I wanted to share a little bit about what has been bringing me joy, what's been filling my spirit for the last month or so. And one thing that I've done is I've done a lot of dancing in the last month or so. I have gone to 2 nights. I've gone out dancing to a club. It's a little bit of a club. And they have an 80s night. And that has just been so much fun. Just dancing and dancing and dancing. It's really amazing. I loved going out dancing when I was in my early 20s and so forth. And, you know, having a family, you just stop doing those types of things. And now I feel like I'm in another phase. Everybody's getting older. There's a little bit more space for me to reconnect with those types of activities. And going out dancing has just been a lot of fun. And also a friend of mine and I have been taking a belly dancing class, which has also been fun. I don't know that it's quite my thing, but I've really enjoyed it. And it's just been really fun to get out there and move in a lot of different ways. And it's just been really refreshing, rejuvenating, and actually strength building, considering that strength is my word of the year. It's just, you know, it fills your cup and you just feel stronger in a way and more vital. So I've really, really enjoyed that. On a completely different level, I don't usually talk to you about cookbooks. Sandy by the Lakeside is your cookbook girl. She just enables me. I love yarn, but I have a lot of cookbooks too. I would say that's a secondary addiction that I have. In terms of gathering things. And one book that I wanted to mention that I've had for a couple of years and I've made many things out of is this book called Scandinavian Gatherings. I first took it out of the library, and then I took it out of the library again, and then I took it out of the library again, and I thought, I think I need to buy this book because I just enjoy it so much. It's a beautiful book that has cooking. It's got these Swedish meatballs, for example, and I've made this recipe and they're really delicious. Actually, I also made this split pea soup from here, minus the cream. I didn't put the cream in. But it's a book that has cooking in it, but it also has crafts. So there's a lot of Scandinavian style crafts, and they kind of show you how to make them. Like there's just they're simple things. This one is pine cones that have been painted and then put on a string, or some things are a little bit more complex. But let me see if I, here's one that is, ooh, I also made this blueberry Finnish pie, except that I used black currants, which I wouldn't do again because the pie itself is a bit sour and the black currants are also sour. I think the blueberries would be really, really good. But I'm trying to find the craft that I was looking at. There's just lovely, lovely things in this book, and pretty much everything I have made from here has turned out really, really well. So I wanted to mention it. Oh, here they have something called a teacup terrarium, and there's a Christmas hanging that I want to make, but I can't seem to find it now. Here's another welcome sign. So it's a lovely book. It's beautiful, and also I've just really enjoyed, there's a marshmallow recipe in here that I've made. I think I've made 5 recipes in here so far, and I just really enjoy it. So I wanted to bring that up because that is a book that has brought me joy. In terms of other books, I finally finished The Cruelest Month by Louise Penny, which is the 3rd book in the Gamache series. And that was my favorite book so far. I felt like it really started bringing the backstory of the police force and the stuff that's going in there. And it was very interesting. It was also very funny at times. Some of the characters are very comical. And you've got the mystery as well in there, and that's happening obviously. But I really, really enjoyed it. So I have to say, I think I've committed myself to going through all of Louise Penny's books. I'm not going to go in them, through them one after another. I'm going to read other books or listen to other books, because as you know, for me, it's always audio for the most part. And the narrator is really good. And so now I'm invested in those characters. And so I'm going to read the 4th one very soon. But in the meantime, before I get to the 4th one, I started a book called Small Island, which is by Andrea Levy. Unfortunately, Andrea Levy died in 2019, but Small Island won at least one prize, is it the Orange Prize or the Orange Book Prize? It's a story about Andrea herself. Was UK born, but of Jamaican heritage and descent. And the book is about a Jamaican woman, and there's a Jamaican man as well. And it takes place partially in England and partially in Jamaica. And it's sort of past and present for them. It takes place in the 40s, right after the Second World War. And it's so far, it's a fairly long listen. It's 17 hours, and I think I'm at 13 hours now, so I've still got a ways to go. But I'm really enjoying that listen, and I have to say, Andrea Levy narrates the book, and it is exquisite narration. She is really talented. Not all authors are good narrators, but in this case, the narration is supreme. It's so compelling, in great part because of the narration. It's just so beautifully narrated. She does all the accents. She does the English accent, she does the Jamaican accents, but in the Jamaican accent, she's got some differences between the characters, and then she's got an American accent in there, and she does them all really well. And her narration is just very compelling. So I'm really enjoying that very, very much. In terms of activities, I've been out in the snow a lot. As I think I said earlier, we've had a lot of snow this year, and I've really enjoyed it. So I've been out for snowshoeing again, or just walking, and it's been really, really lovely. And you'll see footage of that at the end. And I've also seen some really good movies recently. The only movie that I saw in the theaters recently was a new movie by Sarah Polley called Women Talking. That is a really amazing movie, I have to say. Incredibly well told story. A hard story, but a very important story and just so beautifully told. It takes place in a religious community, and it's based on a novel by Miriam Tays, who I believe took the story from a real happening that happened in a Bolivian community. And the story is essentially about a group of women who've been designated by the women in the community to make a decision about how they are going to respond to this particular situation. They've been basically aggressed by, there's a series of aggressions, of violations, and it's the whole movie is their discussion about how they're going to, what they're going to do. Do they do nothing? Do they fight? Do they flight, basically? And it's just such a beautiful discussion that brings in, you know, all the different perspectives, that brings in this dialogue and, you know, about how does one respond to these types of situations. It's a faith community, so there's also, you know, a lot of discussion around faith versus what they're being told in the community and how they should live. And it's really, really well done, a masterpiece in my opinion, and very thought-provoking. Really, and there is violence, but it's not a main part of the story at all, and it's done in a very stylized way, which I really appreciated. It was an excellent, excellent film. I also saw another film that's a couple of years old, but that I really enjoyed and was also a difficult movie to watch. I think I have to say I'm not one for fantasy movies so much. I tend to like sort of more human stories. So this one was The United States versus Billie Holiday. Billie Holiday being a fabulous jazz singer, whom I've always adored. I was a big jazz fan from a very young age. There was a lot of jazz in the house, and I think if you've been around for a while, you'll know that I asked at one point, if you could have anyone to dinner, who would you have? And I said I would have Ella Fitzgerald. Billie Holiday was an amazing character and very much an activist who, as she was born at a time, an unfortunate time, she was not understood and was not respected. And this movie is very much about her relationship to the FBI. And Billie Holiday is played by Andra Day, and she did such a good job of singing in her style. It was so good. And Trevante Rhodes is in it as well, and he was in a movie called Moonlight years ago, which was also a supremely good movie. And it was a movie that actually was very disturbing to me. Even just talking about it, I feel like I'm getting emotional, but it was a very moving movie and a very upsetting movie, and I really thought about it for days. And I just thought, you know, it was a very straight storytelling movie, but a powerful performance by Andra Day, and I think an important story to tell. I also saw The Danish Girl, which is a movie that came out 5 years ago, and I think Eddie Redmayne had won awards for his performance in The Danish Girl. Also another very powerful movie. I feel like I've watched some really heavy movies, but that have been very powerful movies that I'm glad to have seen. And I feel like when you see a beautifully made movie or a really well acted movie or a beautifully shot movie, I just feel like it fills my spirit to see that. It's like, it's art. So The Danish Girl is a story about the first person basically to have gone through an operation. And this is a story about this person who is married and who determines that she's actually a woman, and needs to live out her life as a woman. And as then, of course, this took place also many, many moons ago. It was a really well done movie, also very thought provoking. So yeah, I'm not here with the light and and fun movies this time. They were all really heavy, but not really heavy, but they were powerful movies that, you know, I thought about for days. And they were just really well-made movies that I really enjoyed. So that is what has been feeding me for the last month or so. Yeah. So I'll leave you there and hope that you are still here with me. And if you are, thank you. I also wanted to say that I got a lot of really positive comments about the snowshoeing vlog last time. That was my first time doing a vlog type thing, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. I actually really enjoyed putting it together, but it's not something I think I would do all the time. I realize that people who vlog, you really have to be constantly thinking about talking into the camera. And while my friends have gotten used to me stopping to take footage, talking into a camera while I'm in the middle of doing things and whatever is also another story. I think, you know, it's not something I would do all the time, but I really did enjoy doing it. So there might be more in the future. But for today, I'll just leave you with some lovely woodland and walking shots. We went for a walk yesterday and we saw all these mallard ducks. They were absolutely adorable. So you'll see some of those and some lovely scenes from recently. So I'll leave you with those and I'll see you next time. Take care, friends.
Maybe our lives were not meant to collide from the start, but who could foresee the fall? Maybe it's time to decide what to do with the fact that it happens to us all. From time to time it all comes around, and no one knows the end. We're all building bridges slowly, tearing them down fast to start over. We're all trying to come over memories of the past and start over. The past can start over. Start over. Staying alive to prevent all the chaos, but happiness can't wait. And maybe it all would go clear if we knew how to act for each other's sake. From time to time it all comes around, but no one knows the end. We're all building bridges slowly, tearing them down fast to start over. We're all trying to come over memories of the past and start over. We're all building bridges slowly, tearing them down fast to start over. We're all trying to come over memories of the past and start over. The past won't start over. The past won't start over.